We are live on the Dimers Sports Betting Podcast. It is our 20th episode of this show. I wish I had some confetti that could just drop down from the ceiling right now. Dave, congratulations on making it this far with me on this journey. How are you?
Good, man. Thank you. It feels good. We're kind of jumping into this thing with fresh legs to start the season, and it's been rolling along. Feeling good. Maybe I'll add some confetti in the post-production of this when I'm done.
Yeah, that'd be lovely. They say repetition makes greatness, Dave, and I'm hoping that's
sure
the
does.
path that we're on here. It's been fun. Thank you to all of our listeners who have supported along the way and keep showing up twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday for episodes of this podcast. We're officially into the second half of the NFL season. Today's show is going to look an awful lot like most Tuesday shows. We'll start with some Week 10 takeaways. We've got wins from the weekend to discuss, an early preview at Week 11. As always, your fantasy waiver wire. I got some early college football plays for you as well, and NBA King of the Court again on Tuesday night. So we'll help guide you through that. But first, we start with our takeaways from Week 10 of the NFL season.
The week that was.
You're ready to call it here? We've got our MVP.
Yeah, I am. It's Jonathan Taylor. It's not close. I said in my fantasy group chat a few weeks ago, it was probably more like 5 weeks ago. Someone was like, is JT MVP? And I said, not a chance. Like, just the way that this league goes, gotta say, I didn't anticipate he would do this for the next 4 or 5 weeks. And he has. I just don't think the argument is there for really anyone else. He has 5 games with 3 touchdowns this year. He scored more points than anyone in the NFL. The next 12 or 15 are all kickers. Daniel Jones has been good, not great. So JT is the clear MVP of this team. And the players above Jonathan Taylor, I'll just go through them real quick. Kind of depends where you're looking. He is 3rd on FanDuel. He's 4th on DraftKings. But yeah, Drake May at plus 300, Stafford at plus 300, and Mahomes at 500. I mean, first of all, Mahomes, we talked about his odds earlier in the season as too long at plus 1,400, which I still think would be the case. But to be the 3rd favorite for beating up on the Commanders and the Raiders on a little 3-game win streak as they fall further back in the division, I just think it's ridiculous. Obviously, they're projecting for the full season and how the voters are going to go. But we're talking about what we've seen so far. Drake May looks good, not doing anything mind-blowing, not a single game with 300 passing yards. His best game was 3 TDs, no picks, and 261 versus the Saints, getting great defensive contributions. They beat one division leader this season. That's the Bucs this past week. Matt Stafford, I'll mostly give you this one. He's been great. 25 touchdowns to 2 picks is absolutely elite, but he's not the most valuable player on this team. It's loaded on offense. The defense is among the best in the NFL. If they didn't have Devontae Adams, they would have been in major trouble without Puka. JT is the number one reason the Colts are the number 1 team in the NFL. He's got more touchdowns than Saquon's Offensive Player of the Year season last year, and it's Week 11.
It's crazy. He's been absurd, ludicrously good. I don't even know what you do with it. I think it's very real, too. It's not going anywhere. There's no reason to expect a second-half downturn from him. I think Stafford's the threat here. With all due respect to Drake May, unless the Pats, win out, I think this is kind of like an end-of-career – wow, is Matt Stafford really this underappreciated with how good he really is now? It'd almost be like a coronation for the guy after all he's been through in Detroit into, he won a Super Bowl in LA, but to still perform at this level after a Super Bowl a couple years later is kind of crazy. But I would give it to Taylor without question, right? To me, it's a no-brainer. I'm right in alignment with you. I think if we can dodge the Stafford bullet, you're onto something here.
Yep, that would be it for me. I'm going to bet it. I might try to see if I can juice up the odds a little bit. I wish I grabbed it a week or so ago and it was more than 10-1, but about plus 600, plus 500, plus 700. Where you look now?
I think in my head, I have Jonathan Taylor Thomas in my head, by the way. Shout out to great
I bet you did, man.
Yeah, I'm like, why did I just say
man of the house?
Jonathan Taylor Thomas. My first takeaway from the week, and it's a confusing one. If a takeaway can just be confusion, I guess that's what this is. JETS, more like LUCK, luck. I'm so confused how this team beat the Browns. We liked the Browns last week. We were in on it. The Browns started off 7-0. I'm feeling great. And then all of a sudden the Jets do something that I don't think has ever been done in NFL history. Back-to-back special teams return touchdowns, a punt return, and a kick return to start the game. Look, respectfully to a great special teams performance, make sure coach gets the game ball. That's such a fluke. It's just such a fluke to have, let alone not just one touchdown, but back-to-back special teams touchdowns in a game with bad weather that you win by 7. Nothing the Jets did in this game against the Browns was inspiring to me after dumping their entire team. Justin Fields threw 6 completions for 54 yards. If anything, the only notable takeaway to me here at all is that Breece Hall is going to be doubled and tripled down upon down the stretch run of the season. He had 21 carries for 83 yards. He was the only receiver to break a catch of more than 5 yards in this game. Look, I'm not buying it, but it's at least interesting to me that the team that started 0-7 and sold at the deadline now has a horseshoe up there, you know what, and has one of the luckiest wins of the season. I'll be curious to see what happens. They go to New England in their next game. I would assume it's a beatdown, but they have my attention at minimum.
Yeah, this Thursday it'll be fun. If you told me that Jets Patriots would actually be kind of an interesting one to watch a few weeks ago, I wouldn't believe you, especially on Thursday Night Football. But I mean, division implications for the Patriots, something I'm about to talk about just a little bit. And it's something, not what I would have imagined, but that Justin Fields passing line is probably like the 3rd or 4th time he's done that this year. So something's got to change.
It's crazy.
All right. My next one is staying in that AFC East. And it's the Bills are frauds. They're totally broken. And I think we're going to see the lack of big moves catch up to them, at least come playoffs. They needed to make a move for a wide receiver this year, and they did not. They signed Mecole Hardman after they just got beat by the Dolphins as like my God, we need to do something. And yeah, Mecole Hardman's got a great Super Bowl winning play, but he's just Mecole Hardman. There's a reason he was available. Now you got Dalton Kincaid hurt, their second leading receiver, only 9 yards behind Khalil Shakir in one fewer game. They don't have a 500-yard receiver on this team. He's got the most TDs in the receiving game with 4. That's Dalton Kincaid. And now he's out probably at least a week or 2. The offensive personnel is just not good enough to push the ball downfield. If opposing teams can scheme out the run game, they're basically useless. In their 3 losses, their leading rusher was 53, 84, and 53. Josh Allen, one of those 53-yard performances. And they just don't have the mojo they did last year. Allen's 1 pick away from last year's total. He's only got 5. It's not like he's tossing them left and right. He was leading the league a couple years ago, but he's taken 6 sacks more than he did last year already. A game and a half back of the Pats, just 2-2 in AFC East play and 0-1 to the Pats. So any tiebreaker that could possibly come into play at the end of the season isn't looking good for them. And it's just you're seeing it catch up to them. And I just don't think they have the long-term upside that they once did.
Yeah, I always hesitate to use that F word, that fraudulent word, with a team as good as the Bills or a quarterback as good as Josh Allen. But I agree. My eye test backs up everything you're saying here. They are vulnerable. They are gettable. They've had a series of uninspiring performances this year that finally caught up to them against the Dolphins franchise that just has never had the Bills number. I mean, that's one of the all-time lopsided matchups in recent NFL history, even when the Dolphins have been good. And for this to be a beatdown of epic proportions over the weekend, the wheels are off at this point for Buffalo. I have one more team to turn our attention to. It's Seattle. Now, I'm impressed. I'm truly just blown away from what we've seen in the last 2 weeks from Seattle. And I'm wondering how much of it is schedule induced versus this team just really has turned a corner. But back-to-back weeks now, a 28-0 lead in the second quarter on the road against Washington and then at home against Arizona. These games followed eerily similar game scripts. I mean, it was just like Seahawks march down the field for 7, 3 and out, march down the field for 7, 3 and out, turnover, run it back, 3 and out. It was the same game twice in a row against 2 different opponents. They've now won 4 straight. They've won 7 of 8. You look at this schedule that they've played. I don't know that they've beaten a playoff team. That's the thing. Their best win is probably on the road at Jacksonville. their losses both at home to the Niners and the Bucks by 4 and 3 points. I mean, there's a world that's not all that crazy here where Seattle's undefeated if those games have one big play that goes in the other direction, but it's about to heat up. They're on the road against the Rams next. They've got 2 against the Rams the rest of the season. Still have to go on the road to Atlanta. Still have to host the Colts. I think that I'm buying Seattle as for real. This is now back-to-back seasons that we've seen Sam Darnold kind of come out of nowhere and lead an offense to prolific numbers. I think they've got better players than anyone realizes. Smith-Njigba's been sensational, but you think back to that Commanders game, it seemed like they were spreading the ball around to a bunch of guys we hadn't even heard of. Walker and Charbonnet is one of the best duos in the league at the running back position. At minimum, I think this offense is here to stay, but they're tied with LA at the top of that division. San Francisco, a game and a half back right now. I'm curious what to do with Seattle as the season goes to the second half.
They're a bit of a Super Bowl pick for me. Dimer's model has them. This is before this week at 3.5%. I think you can get them at plus 1,400. That is not value, but it's a pretty good price on a team that looks this good. DeMarcus Lawrence with those 2 fumble returns, I was hurting a little bit watching that. This team reminds me of the late Dynasty era Patriots. They're getting a lot done with running backs who are not fantastic, but very efficient, at least as far as scoring. Charbonnet is not a big yards per carry guy, but he gets in the end zone. They have an absolute dog of a receiver in JSN. That defense keeps them in every single game, and they're really well coached, and they're doing a lot with the quarterback position when he doesn't always have to do a whole ton and take over games. It's very reminiscent of the last couple Brady years for me when they were good. And the NFL simply isn't ready for the Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold Super Bowl.
Dude, can you imagine how we would have to market that in the Mahomes, Allen, Lamar era, and it's Darnold Jones.
The memes will thrive.
It really will be. We can only be so lucky, Dave, truly. I like that shout. A little sprinkle on Seattle Super Bowl. I think you got me invested in that. They have my attention. Okay, we're going to look backwards here and tell you some things that you should have bet last week.
Should have bet that.
Talk your shit for me, Dave.
Yeah, well, you should have bet on me to go 6-0 in fantasy because I did. And I don't know where you're finding that number, probably offshore, but I bet it was like plus 10,000 because I got a couple last place teams and they did it when it counted most. And I'm climbing back in. So look for that next week or maybe fade me. I don't know. But things that we could have actually bet on included Ben Griffin coming out of nowhere, not nowhere, but climbing up the ranks in the Worldwide Technology Championship. He was the Dimers model's favorite to win the tournament. He was our best value bet. Climbed up, won it on the final day. That's our 3rd winner in FedEx Cup Fall, 4th since the Tour Championship. He cashed the full ladder, top 5, 10, 20, and outright as well. Great display from the Dimers model in these fall events. Another thing you could have cashed was our round robin. We finally broke the streak. We caught a ×2 on the first touchdowns. Unfortunately, Quinshawn Judkins did not get in for an anytime TD to sell the full plus 1,700 anytime TD parlay. Amon-Ra scored the 2nd touchdown in his game. So we had it there. We got a little bit, and we're going to look for more this next week. Dimers model results were killing it last week. The NHL results went 2-0 by recommended plays from what we have been seeing positive ROI on. NBA plays went 5-1. Over the run since we started doing these reports. And there were a couple NFL moneyline underdogs that popped and raised their head, including the Dolphins that we've seen in those reports as well. Just a reminder, you can get these by setting your preferred sports in your Dimers account preferences, and these emails will go to you automatically. And we are working on more ways of bringing these onto the site for everyone to utilize. Couple close calls. We had JJ Spawn almost cash a double ladder at this tournament. He finished T11, so it was good enough for the top 20 value. One more stroke and he would have hit 2 rungs of the ladder. He was in contention. And my little touchdown 100-yard long shot, all 3 scored a touchdown. JSN put up 82 yards, and then Sam Darnold basically didn't throw another pass. Amon-Ra fell victim to the Jahmyr Gibbs show, but Ladd McConkey did raise his head as his best game of the season. So we had a little something with the TDs. Maybe I won't go so crazy next week, but it's about kind of taking a long shot from the projections. So we'll see if we can do some more this week.
It was audacious, and we like your audacity, Dave. We want
thank
more
you.
of that on this program. Thanks for carrying us to some wins, because I didn't bring anything of winning value to the table last week. First real cold week for me of the season, and hoping that I can use the model to get us back in the green this week from my college picks. We'll see. All right, reminder, get Dimers Pro. 50% off, promo code podcast. That's how you can get that 50% off. You want to get all these insights for yourself in real time. Don't wait for Dave and I on our 2 episodes a week. Make sure that you can use this tool to the fullest on your own. Promo code podcast. Check it out. All right, let's turn our attention forward next. It is week 11 in the NFL, and we've got some early against the spread picks to take.
The early edge.
Starting with Atlanta and Carolina here. What do we got?
Yeah, I jumped the gun on you a little bit, Greg, there in that transition. My bad. But so we got Panthers plus 3.5 at Falcons. This is our top probability spread of the week at 58.9%. Gets you a 6.5 or 6.7% edge. Here, I'll pull these up at odds of minus 109. Panthers regressed to their average Panthers self this past week versus the Saints. It was a divisional game, and we know those can get a bit scrappy, but they just could not get much going on in the air or the ground. Snapped Bryce Young's little 4-game win streak. It was Andy Dalton in that Bills loss. Rico Dowdle's worst game with 53 yards, though he did score the first TD for us, but they were blanked after that. Falcons, on the other hand, they dropped the game in Berlin. They did manage to force overtime. They covered the spread, but they let the Colts march right down, score in 7 plays to win the game. Now they're coming back overseas without a bye. Got to say, Drake London looks absolutely excellent. Got a great connection with Michael Penix right now, but aside from that, very uninspiring play from Michael Penix Jr. lately. Bijan held to under 100 total yards once again. Tyler Algier with 2 TD vultures. We called him out as a touchdown value in our preview of that game. Just not a lot of consistency in that offense, though. You're going to find Algier with some value again this week. And honestly, I wouldn't really be betting on Bijan much. It doesn't mean you have to go bet on Algier, but with the way that he's trending down and Algier just isn't going away, never has, it's a little bit of a daunting play to take on Bijan, especially because you know he's going to be juiced. You got a great Falcons passing defense. We talked about it last week. That's probably going to make problems for Bryce Young. Tet McMillan caps our receivers at 61 receiving yards, and then just 34 for Leggett, 31 for Coker, only 179 total passing yards for Bryce Young in our projections. So prop angles, I'll probably be looking at some passing receiving unders. You're probably not going to see more than one receiver dominate from the Panthers offense. If any do, should be a good bounce back game for Rico Dowdle. Jonathan Taylor just went nuclear, 286 yards and 3 touchdowns. I'd be very afraid, or at least if I'm Rico Dowdle, I'd be very happy. So something to look at. Might be, again, tough to get some good odds after the JT performance is probably going to tax some of Rico Dowdle's odds and lines, I would imagine. But I'd say it seems like a really good spot on paper for the Panthers. They're very much in the NFC South race with the Bucs losing 1.5 games back. I pretty much expect them to play this as a must-win game. Falcon season is more or less over, and feels like a good spot for the model to be right on the Panthers once again.
Yeah, I like this spot a lot as a bounce-back spot for Carolina. Just a totally dreadful performance against New Orleans, a team that obviously you want to beat if you're trying to sneak into the playoffs when nobody expected you to, right? But look, they've been good over the bulk of the season. Like they've got some wins that are going to hold up. They went to Lambeau and got a win. I was impressed in the Dallas win. Their best performance of the year by far was against this Atlanta team, 30-0. Just absolutely stomped them. That was their first win of the year. No one even knew who Carolina was at that point. Something is off with this Atlanta team. And, they had the overseas game last week. They kept up offensively with Indianapolis. That is impressive in its own right. But now you look at a team, like you said, what are they playing for at this point? They're 3-6 on the year. They had a long flight home from an emotional loss to Indianapolis. I think this is a hangover, like defeated spot for them against a team that beat them by 30 that they didn't score against earlier in the year. I can't scoop up Carolina quick enough.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I almost forgot about that 30-0 loss, and that was pre-Rico Dowdle and probably a better-looking Falcons team because Bijan was still rolling at that point.
Yeah. Yep. Totally different. All right. Next up is a team that I always mention shows up frequently on my personal cards and frequently with the model this year. We're back in on the Bears at +3 against Minnesota here. Take me through it.
Yeah, early spread value last week. Looked like it was going to be cooked in that Giants game, and then they came out with a beautiful fourth quarter after blowing the early lead. Really strong ground game in a good spot that really powered them to that win. Monungai didn't do a whole lot, but he scored. DeAndre Swift, I think, had 80-something yards. Caleb Williams rushed for 60-something, I believe. So they were just dominant on the ground. And despite not having beaten a dominant team lately, they're gathering momentum. They're finding an identity, even if that identity means a bit of a shaky Caleb Williams under center as he continues to grow. But he is, at least a little bit. You can see it in the offense. The defense needs to learn how to put some stops together instead of leaning on the team to get it done late. And meanwhile, I feel like the Vikings couldn't be more opposite. They're struggling to find any momentum. They've played very good teams lately. I'll say these schedules look like complete flip sides of one another as far as the quality of opponents they have to play, which makes sense. They were very good last year, and the schedule reflects that. But McCarthy's got 3 TDs and 3 picks in his last 2 starts, plus a rushing TD. This could be a very good game for the running backs in Minnesota, with the Bears allowing 135 rushing yards per game. They also allow the most rushing yards to quarterbacks. So J.J. McCarthy's coming off his best game there with 5 carries for, I think, 46 yards. So something to look at there, especially if you can get a good number. Take a quick look while we're discussing this to see what his projection is at early on in this week. But I do really like this spread. I think the Bears are trending in the better direction, as mentioned. 57% probability for the under 48.5 in this game also, which, as I always say, makes me like the cover more. Just kind of feels like +3 is sort of too long. Like, I know it can't be much shorter. I wouldn't say the Bears should be favored on the road, but I think the road is doing too much here for the spread. I think they would be favored at home, and I find it hard to imagine that just a road game is going to do that much to this this matchup.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like, light years away from opening week, right? When the Vikings stormed back, that dramatic fourth quarter victory, JJ McCarthy heroics, 21 points late to come back from 2 scores down and beat the Bears by a field goal. They needed that much to beat the Bears by a field goal in that game. Certainly both these teams have changed quite a bit. The Bears have won 6 of 7. It's not always pretty, but it's there. Like they do just enough. They have the weapons offensively, and I think they have the quality play on the defensive side that they don't get the credit for. Minnesota's good, and what scares me here is I do think this is like a season on the line game for Minnesota, who is undefeated in the NFC North. Somehow they're the only team that hasn't lost a game in this division. They're sitting there in 4th place in the standings. It's a gauntlet with Green Bay, Chicago, and Detroit all at least a game, if not more, ahead of them at this point. This is totally, we have to win, or I think we see the writing on the wall. But they're not as good as Chicago. They're just not. And even with McCarthy back, it's talk about ugly. Like that offense does not move the ball very well. I trust Caleb Williams, who's had a full season under his belt at this point. I trust the playmakers on Chicago's side a lot more than I trust Minnesota. It feels like Chicago's the team I've bet the most this season, but it's been profitable. I mean, has there been a team that has worked out for us more this year than Chicago? I don't know if there has been.
No, I don't think so. They bit us in that Ravens game, but they came up clutch last week. We talked about them in the Bears-Cowboys game, and they dominated. And hey, they lost that first game by a field goal. +3 here. That's a push at worst. And this division is 6-3 atop with the Lions and the Bears. It's completely in play. You got to think Ben Johnson is hungrier than anybody to win a division against, particularly his former team. So it feels like the Bears would pull out all the stops in this game and give me the team with the momentum for sure.
Yeah, that second Bears-Lions game, final game of the season, could be
Oh, really? That's going to be awesome. Should
quite a
be
moment.
anyway.
Yeah. We'll be interested in that one for sure. All right, last but certainly not least, speaking of games with divisional implications here, the Denver Broncos catching 4 points against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. High probability here from the model, almost a 57% probability. Are you on board with Broncos this week?
I think so. I am. This one notably does not have high value from the model. So, if you're strictly an EV better, this would be on the lower end of that. Granted, it's not that much far off from the Bills. As you can see here, if you are watching, they have a 4% edge, Broncos at 3.6. But this is a big AFC West battle. We alluded to this one last week, having even more implications and futures than before. Kind of interestingly, I was not correct that Denver would move into the favored spot, or at least as far as minus odds are concerned. They're still 125, plus 125 over the Chiefs at plus 165 in the division. This is going to be a really interesting one. Like the Chiefs are coming off of a momentum-killing loss to the Bills, though they had the bye just now. And Denver, while their defense just continues to dominate, the offense just constantly looks lacking a second level. You cannot play the Cowboys defense every week, and that's pretty much the best they've looked all year. They're undefeated at home. That's the Broncos. Chiefs are 1-3 on the money line on the road. So that's practically enough for me to just like the spread because it screams close game to me. These teams are combined 9-1 on the spread. It could not be more evenly matched as far as trends and what these teams have shown so far. Both top 5 defenses and points allowed. So it's going to be a tough game, I think, for either to establish a serious run game, which is going to maybe make for some dicey drives, maybe some passes that, you wouldn't normally see some of these teams take as they try to chip away in a game that they're probably going to be struggling to really put together big drives. Chiefs have the superior offense. I don't think there's much of a question about that. But again, it's going to be hard to unlock its full potential against a very good defense. So a very close game here feels right. And frankly, the run game for the Chiefs still just has not inspired enough to suggest a well-balanced offense. And the Broncos run game is absolutely elite. So yeah, some TD value here when I'm looking at it. Cortland Sutton and Rashee Rice, which is interesting, kind of goes along with that I think the defense is just going to win out, that you're going to find value on offensive plays in this. So pretty appealing from a value standpoint to get both of the top wide receivers with an edge in the Dimers props. But again, how much passing are we really going to get in this game is a big question.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. The only thing that scares me at all here, I look at Denver's season on the whole here. They've lost 2 games by a combined 4 points, right? All the way back in weeks 2 and 3, on the road at Indianapolis, on the road at the Chargers. The game script in those games was basically those teams are going to air it out, right? Daniel Jones and Justin Herbert both went over 300 yards passing in those games. When Denver's played a team that just can't do that or doesn't do that, they've rolled pretty much every single week. And they're a team that has proven they can win in a variety of ways: a low-scoring dogfight, a blowout win, a high-scoring, high-paced game. I just think they're a good, well-rounded football team. The one thing that I think is exploitable is just we're going to air it out and beat you through the air. Mahomes can certainly do that. I think his hand is forced into doing that given the state of the backfield for Kansas City right now. But all that said, I mean, it's my favorite phrase in sports betting. Home dogs are not dogs. They're wolves. If you're giving me an underdog at home that's 8-2 on the year with 2 losses by a combined 4 points, and I'm catching 4 points, I mean, I might as well take the money line. I think there's value on that personally. So I'm in. I was in when I saw the number at 4. I think this is a coin flip game. And even if the Chiefs get it done, you just tip your cap to them if they go into Mile High and get that done.
Yeah, catching it outside a field goal is nice. And yeah, couldn't agree more. Chiefs just haven't done enough for me to call them 4-point favorites in a divisional game against a very good team.
100%. Okay, 3 plays early in the week. We will check back on Thursday and see what we're finalizing on our card for the week. Reminder, all these things shift in real time. Sometimes you'll see changes to where the value is. That's the beauty of Dimers Pro. Promo code podcast, you get 50%. So we will keep you up to speed on Thursday, but get Dimers Pro on your own if you'd like to see it in the interim. For now, we are going to turn our attention to Dave's segment. It's time for the Fantasy Waiver Wire.
The Fantasy Waiver Wire.
I love that yoink.
Yeah, it's good. It should evoke the right tone anyway, because we've yoinked several touchdowns using this segment. 2 of our pickups last week, Tyler Algier and Parker Washington, both get 2 touchdowns. Algier with the Vultures, Parker Washington gets 1 off a huge punt return. So really good stuff. We keep finding value in here. And again, if you don't play fantasy, we're looking at these guys because of the matchups and the Dimers data and the opportunity. They're still worth looking at for betting. You can apply pretty much the same analysis here to betting opportunities. So don't shy away from the segment just because you may not be a fantasy football crazy like some of us. Anyway, Colts and Saints on a bye this week, so not too many key players out. Raise a toast to yourself if you're playing the team with Jonathan Taylor, because you already won the lottery with that. You will not have to face him this week. So again, I don't think there's a huge must-grab guy this week as there have been in the past, but I got a pair of running backs worth a look. Brian Robinson Jr. of the 49ers. Oh, I have 48ers on this thing. The original version of the 49ers, as many do not know, some lost history. They were once the 48ers for 5 seconds. Weeks 9 and 10 were B-Rob's best games of the season, both from a yards perspective, and he scored in back-to-back games. CMC is operating as basically a hybrid wide receiver running back all season, which he always has done, but it's even more so heavy on the receiving work this time. 49ers seem content to lighten up his load on the ground for long-term efficiency, to keep him healthy, and just because they don't have any really healthy receivers. I wouldn't be firing him up unless you need him. We only project him for like 3.2 PPR points, but he's a solid stash. If you're missing Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara this week, you could certainly do worse than a guy who has some at least touchdown equity and red zone touch opportunities. Sean Tucker, he's only 8% rostered, RB2 on the Bucs right now. I'm saying this somewhat facetiously, but Bucky Irving may never come back. I don't really know what's going on there. It's gone longer than anyone's expected. He put out some cryptic tweet, which I didn't even know about originally back when he hit the IR. Like, I hope my career stays the same or something like that. It was something that just doesn't make you feel good about the possibility of Bucky Irving returning even this year. And Sean Tucker's been cutting into Rachaad White's workload the past few weeks, outperformed him as well, gets the Bills defense on tap, which, as we know, was just shredded once again. And I believe Sean Tucker gets a pretty respectable projection, 9.2 PPR points, 40 rushing yards, 9 receiving yards, and a 37.1% TD probability, which is really good for an RB2 in a situation against a rushing defense like the Bills. So if you need somebody, Sean Tucker is certainly a play this week.
He was bouncing off tackles. Like White's dynamic in his own right, but in terms of like first impressions, Tucker does not get taken down easily. I think we could easily see the Bucs commit more resources to him in the future.
He had one of, if not the best single player rushing performances against the Patriots this season, and he didn't even top 60 yards. So, I mean, that's, just gassing up how good the Patriots defense is, but he performed very well in that situation. Yeah. Couple wide receivers, Parker Washington, I talked about him last week, still only 41% rostered. So if he's out there, you should grab him. Stepped up big time with 2 TDs, 1 on special teams. Travis Hunter still in IR. Jacoby Myers ran half as many routes as he's still getting up to speed. This is probably a limited time rental here with Brian Thomas Jr. back at some point, maybe even in the next game. Jacoby Myers, once he gets up to speed, maybe he'll take over that wide receiver 2 role. But for now, Parker Washington is certainly a play, and you could do a lot worse as far as wide receiver 3 flex guys. We project him for 10.2 points this week, 43.5 receiving yards, almost a 30% TD probability. And then Alec Pierce, he's on bye, so you won't be able to use him this week. So it's just a stash, but he's 43% rostered. Just had one of his best games, over 80 yards in 3 of his past 4, almost a 50% target share on this team this year. And obviously it's a run first team, but there's still a ton of passing volume to go around in that game. Most air yards on in the NFL per game. So he's being used for deeper throws, which makes him a bit more boom or bust, but it gives you a lot of ceiling and a lot of upside for a productive piece of a powerhouse offense.
Give me any Cole, right? That's like at this point, that offense is so damn good that if you can grab any somewhat foundational piece of it, no matter where they are, it's probably worth investing in. I'm in on that pitch.
Yeah. And I wouldn't burn a spot on him. If you need a wide receiver this week, I wouldn't do it on Alec Pierce because he can't play. But if you've got a spot, you're getting a piece of a very good team, and that's always a good thing to have, especially as we hit the back end of the season. And then I just got one of each: quarterback, tight end. Joe Burrow, kind of breaking my rules here. He's 63% rostered, but there's a good chance somebody in a league dropped him because of IR spot limitations. He plans to return in week 13. So scoop him up if he is available, stash him in your IR, and don't be caught out without a quarterback when you could have had Joe Burrow. If you absolutely need one this week, Aaron Rodgers versus the Bengals. I'm going to be picking him in a league that I need him in. He threw for 4 touchdowns, all to tight ends last time out against Cincy. We've got him for 18.8 fantasy points this week, so you could do a lot worse there, especially if you are in a 2 quarterback league. And then my only tight end here I'll really recommend is Dalton Schultz of the Texans, 35% rostered, 8+ targets in 3 of his past 4 weeks, scored his first touchdown last week. You got Tyler Warren and Juwan Johnson out, so 2 top 10 tight ends. Gadsden may be out. You got a pretty soft Titans defense on tap here, so Dalton Schultz would be the guy if you are looking for an emergency tight end. 9.7 PPR points, 26.4% touchdown probability for Dalton Schultz.
Pretty plug and play there. A lot of tight ends out this week. That's a good shout with Dalton. And if you're like me at home, you're shocked that Joe Burrow is even addable in your league. But you're right. I think it's a good thing you broke your rule to give us the 63% roster Joe Burrow. That should be 100. I don't care if he's out 11 weeks. You should stash him. It's crazy.
That's what I mean. If you have no IR spot or they're full, yeah, I get it. But if you got someone like Jaden Reed sitting in your IR who's been out all year, replace him with Joe Burrow.
Yeah, 100%. All right, Dave, thank you as always. This is a man who went undefeated in fantasy. Make sure you sound the alarms and let everyone know that last week. All right, it's time to turn from your expertise to my expertise. It's time for the College Corner.
College Corner.
A rare losing week last week, 1-2 on the college football picks. Still a 10-5 run since back in week 7, and positive year. We got hooked on LSU plus 10.5. Just a bad, unfortunate number. It was that close, but I feel good about these 3 plays for this week. College football coming down to the wire, and the models all over all 3 of these. We start in the SEC, where we have Georgia minus 5.5 against Texas. Now, Georgia just put on a completely thorough dominance of Mississippi State last week. It was ugly early. They got down 7-0 in this game. From there, they rattled off 5 straight scores, ran this up to 38-7. I guess mathematically I'm going through this. That'd be 6 straight scores. For 3 quarters, it was just lights out ass whooping. And then Mississippi State scored a couple late. I don't know, just kind of let's tack this on and make the score seem closer than it was. This Georgia team has been underappreciated this season. They've got a quarterback in Gunnar Stockton who is just one of those throwback quarterbacks that you just don't want to give all the credit to. Very similar to Stetson Bennett, who kind of captained them to the national championship a couple years ago. But there's talent all over this team at the skill positions. And in the trenches, they're as good as anybody. To get them against a Texas team who I think is still living off of reputation a little bit with Arch Manning. I mean, they're 7-2 on the year, but you go through their recent weeks since they beat Oklahoma, and mind you, Oklahoma's quarterback was hurt for that game. They haven't beaten some of the cupcake SEC opponents by more than one score. Like they survived against Kentucky by 3, survived against Mississippi State by 7. The same Mississippi State team that Georgia just rattled off 38 unanswered against. I'm shocked this number is under a touchdown for me. If Georgia takes care of business, they should run away with this one and get a real big resume statement victory. So lock that in for the first play this week. For play number 2, we turn to the Big Ten Conference, and it's a bounce back spot here. A team I thought was really unfortunate to not emerge with a victory last week. It's the Iowa Hawkeyes. They're catching 6.5 points. They are taking on the USC Trojans. Now, both of these teams last week were in the mix to kind of make this sneaky run to the college football playoff. That's done for Iowa. They lose a heartbreaker, buzzer-beating field goal to Oregon. But I was really impressed with how they played in that game. I think this is an Iowa program at this point that you can come to expect. They're never going to give up on a season. They're tough as hell defensively. They want to beat you with special teams and positioning. They just don't beat themselves. They're taking on a USC team that I think will go out of their way to beat themselves, quite frankly, in the Lincoln Riley era. That's kind of become a staple of them. And USC is good, don't get me wrong, but when they've played these dominant trench-type teams this season, I think that's when they've kind of struggled a little bit. Now, this is a West Coast trip for Iowa. It's certainly a dangerous spot given the emotional loss at the last second to Oregon. It's really going to be a what are you made of game. But at 6.5 points, I'm willing to back that Iowa's made of some tough guys that are not going to give up on the season against a USC team that I think is very far from tough. And also, this is a look-ahead spot for USC. After this game against Iowa, they go to Oregon, which is by far their biggest game of the season. So I take Iowa here, almost a full touchdown. I would love it at 7. If you want to buy up the half point, I don't hate that. But to me, this is a one-possession game. One more to add to the card, too. Staying in the Big Ten, it's an over here. We're going to take Purdue and Washington over 53.5 points. Talk about a team that people assumed would give up on the season. Purdue's 2-8 overall, 0-7 in the conference. They have nothing to play for, mathematically eliminated from a bowl game. But it's first year under Barry Odom, their new head coach, who really has changed the culture here in a positive way. In back-to-back weeks, they've impressed against Michigan and Ohio State, making those games competitive long into the late first half in spots where people thought they were just going to get dog walked. This Purdue offense has been able to move the ball all year. Their issue has not been getting into field position to score. It's really been defensively with a secondary that can get torched at any moment. This week, they take on a Washington team that is coming off the worst loss any team's had in the Big Ten this year. They were in Madison last week, lose 13-10 to Wisconsin, a terrible Wisconsin team, quite frankly. But in a game that was entirely a bad weather game, it was all snow. Washington, this prolific offense, has not been able to throw the ball for a week because they were in the snow and they didn't know what to do. And ultimately, that benefited Wisconsin in a huge way to the point of an upset. To me, I expect Washington to bounce back extremely hard here. This is a team that has hung 42 points on Illinois, 38 points on Rutgers, 59 on Washington State. I mean, they can score and cover this 53 number on their own against a terrible Purdue secondary that ranks 17th in the Big Ten. Washington should get to 40 in this game. If we can get 2 touchdowns from Purdue, that's an easy over at 53.5. Lock that in. That's our 3 for the week. Georgia -5, Iowa +6.5, and then over 53.5 in Purdue and Washington.
Love it, Greg. Georgia play seems really nice to me. Texas has looked so inconsistent and so much up and down. And like you said, Georgia showed you like, oh, they let them score. And then it was like, yeah, that's it. And shut the door last week. Iowa leading in that game late, I believe, last week. So yeah, they were totally live for the upset. And nice to see the Dimer spot to get some value on them in back-to-back weeks as a spot that cashed last week. And I don't know if that was the only time you've had them on the show before, but they're not a infrequent team to show up in the Dimers model at all.
Yeah, it's not a public team, right? Because I don't think anybody wants to bet anything Iowa except for unders. But the reality is this offense is better than most Iowa football offenses. That was another bad weather game. Feels like every Big Ten team was affected by rain and sleet and snow last week. So, going out west, it's a little different. Let's see what you're actually made of. But Iowa's held up nicely and shown value all season long. So there you have it. Make sure subscribe to the show because we do College Corner every single week. It's usually on the Tuesday show. Usually we try to bring 3 picks to the table. Like we said, 10-5 on the season, due for a bounce back. I like our chances this week, Dave. Let's move to the NBA next. It is time for the DraftKings King of the Court. This is one of the best promos you can get in sports betting. It's every Tuesday with DraftKings. What do we have on tap tonight?
Yep. So just a quick refresher for anyone who may be finding out about King of the Court for the first time. You bet $5 on any player prop like points, threes, assists, rebounds. You use the token that you get from DraftKings on that bet. If your pick leads all players in points, rebounds, assists combined that night, everyone who picks them splits a $1 million bonus. So far this year, we've caught Maxey and Giannis with a split pot. In the second week would have been 108 bonus bet just for Maxey, ended up being 20 with the chop. And then we caught a $94 bet from Josh Giddey last week as our top long shot pick. Notably, Maxey was the top long shot pick in the second week that hit. So we're maybe onto something there. And let's look at this week's. Gonna be a little tough, I think, for some people to top the highest overall guy tonight. He's not Giannis, but he's Nikola Jokic versus the Kings. 49.7 PRA. It's 10 over our next guy, SGA. This is going to be a tough one to beat. He's got a triple-double in 6 of 9 games this season. Surpassed 50 PRA in 4 games. Just put up 60 against the Pacers. He's facing the Kings, who he had 55 against last week. Like I said, 10 PRA higher than the next player. He's likely going to be the most bet guy. So if you're happy to take the favorite, I don't really think you can go wrong with Jokic. But I would be almost surprised if his bet is higher than the Giannis bets, because the man is just a triple-double machine. And he puts up double, not even just 10 assists. It's 12, 14, 15 assists, 12, 14, 15, 16 rebounds. He just stacks. And he's already done it against the Kings this year. So next up, you got SGA, 39.8 PRA, second highest projected guy, 30-plus points in 6 straight games. But he will face the Warriors, who allow the 9th fewest points and assists across the league. He's only cleared 50 PRA once this season. He's kind of like not like a paper tiger, but he's like almost like a mirage in the desert for King of the Court. He is an absolute dog, but the only time he cleared 50 PRA, he scored 55 points. He did have 68 PRA in that, but if he's not scoring at an insane number, he's pretty much settling in around that mid-40s PRA, which is really just not enough to win King of the Court. The Thunder get so many contributions across the board that it's rare that he's actually, I think, going to dominate and take over a game in the 3 facets the way that some of these other guys do. Jalen Brunson making his first appearance in the top 3 here. 38.0 PRA projected versus the Celtics. Knicks looking to extend a 4-game win streak here. Brunson is ranked 16th in assists this season, but he is under 25 points in 3 straight games. So he's going to really have to put up a big output in both of those. He's peaked at 49 and 43 PRA this season. Hasn't cleared 40 total in his last 5 games. Celtics allow the 2nd fewest points and 3rd fewest assists in the NBA. So while I think it's appropriate to have Brunson here at around his projection, I don't think he's going to be pushing the 50-plus that you pretty much need to cash this. So if you're going with a top guy, it's Jokic and not either of the other 2. I'm going to play one of these 2, and I'll make my pick after I talk about them. But for 2 long shots, we got Lauri Markkanen versus the Pacers, projected for 33.0 PRA. Coming off a career high 51, or sorry, not coming off, but he had a 51-point overtime win versus the Suns earlier this season for 68 total PRA in that game. That would be the highest king of the court output this season. Faces the Pacers, who rank third worst in rebounds allowed and bottom 10 in total points. He has not had double-digit rebounds or 30-plus points in his last 5 games. I don't think he's had double-digit rebounds since the big PRA game. So he'll need a massive game to hit this. But the Pacers gave up the Nikola Jokic explosion and the SGA explosion. So they're very vulnerable. You're going to need Markkanen to go above his normal marks here, but the Pacers are pretty much one of the absolute top teams to attack with this promo and many other betting angles this season.
Yep. Yeah, the Pacers have just been so disappointing after such a special run in the postseason last year, and they don't look the part at all. It feels like they're gutted because they kind of all realize 1 month into the season, like, oh, this isn't what we thought it would be or what we hoped it would be. So, I think they're kind of like the dead dog that star players can pounce on as the numbers back up. And like the shout with Lowry, if you're going to look for a long shot opportunity. But to your point, Jokic is like just a promo killer. Like as much as you want to get cute in this, when Jokic is active, how can you even look elsewhere? He just affects the game so much more than everybody else. So I don't know if even if you do play a long shot play, like me personally, I would have something on Jokic as well, just to like make sure the Jokic is the king of the court play. And then if you want to play a long shot play over elsewhere that's not the king of the court play, that's probably the way I would do it. And then just mentally be like, damn, I wish I wouldn't have backed Jokic. But you can't be mad at yourself for backing Jokic here.
Yeah, honestly, I would play a long shot guy, and then for Jokic, just bet his numbers. Bet on him to hit a rebound mark, bet on him to hit plus money assists, bet on his PRA ladder, and then kind of cover yourself, and you'll probably win. I mean, if you put one normal size, whatever your unit size is, unless it's like $5, you'll probably win more on a straight bet on Jokic than you will in a bonus bet. Or even
like Jokic triple double, maybe. Right.
Yeah. I mean, if you can get it plus money. Yeah.
Yeah. That way you still get the value of the King of the Court promo with elsewhere. It's not exactly the smart or the fun way to bet these promos to take the favorite, but I think that's the way I would attack it as we talk this through.
Yeah. Yep. There, just last long shot here. And this is who I'm going to play. Scotty Barnes versus the Nets, 31.7 PRA projected. He's our longest shot target here based on projections. But the Nets are abysmal. They allow the most points and assists to power forwards. They're bottom 3 overall in points and assists allowed. Scotty got 50 PRA versus the Mavericks earlier this season. He's shown the upside, and we know he has it. We've seen it in the past. 4 double-digit rebound games, 2 30-plus point games, all-around potential. If everything clicks tonight, if he's flowing, he's got a real good chance. We project him just under 8 boards and 8 assists, so we would call that a triple-double threat. He's right in the range that we want a guy who has the upside to be at. And it's just all about playing matchups in these games for me, because otherwise you're just hoping that a guy defies his matchup and does more than you could probably expect in a certain situation. This is a matchup where Scotty has pretty much a limitless ceiling, and that's who I'm going to play. Probably one of the Markkanen's probably less popular, I would think. So if you're looking for the bigger bonus return, he'd be the guy. But I'm gonna play Barnes.
I like it. All right, Scotty Barnes, Dave's official King of the Court play this week. Thank you for the intel as always. We also have some PGA Tour action this week, the Butterfield Bermuda Championship. I believe this is the first time in the fall that we've got back-to-back weeks with a fall PGA Tour event, and that seems good because our model's on fire with golf right now. So where are we headed for the Butterfield Bermuda Championship?
Well, we're headed to Bermuda. And yes, I don't want to wait another week because I want to get right back on this horse with the Dimers model that is crushing these fall events. As mentioned, we cashed Ben Griffin outright and in the ladder last week. JJ Spawn, Matt Kuchar, 2 other winner picks we had, both finished in the top 20. Both were T11, I believe. So really good stuff from the model last week. Going to run through this one pretty quickly, and then I'll bring up projections. I'll just bring up the projections now. One thing to note, We don't have the odds coming in on the site for some reason right now. Just a little hold up on the back end, but we do have all of our predictions, and I just manually checked the odds for all of us because I'm a dedicated podcaster. So let's dive into this here. Port Royal Golf Course in Bermuda, $6 million purse, par 71, just over 6,800 yards. It's the only course that has ever hosted this event, so anyone who's played here before will be familiar with the course. It is one of the shortest courses, and it has pretty large greens, just like last week. So patience and precision with the putter are definitely going to come into play, but it's not easy because there's going to be a lot of wind. Looks like sustained winds of 20 miles per hour, gusts up to 30 on like early weather reports. So something to keep in mind all weekend long here. But overall, the holes themselves are not inherently difficult. The par fives are all under 555. 6 of the par fours are under 400. Some of the extra length comes on par threes that are over 200. So it's not a inherently difficult course, but the extra factors are going to be what comes into play here. So honestly, would be worth looking at the weather before you maybe place some per round bets and see if someone's going to be teeing off when the wind gusts are higher. You might want to avoid them or fade them a little bit and look at somebody if they project similarly who has a more favorable tee time with the weather. But so we look at our overall projections. We got running it back with Matt Kuchar here at the top, 5.5%, our favorite. He's plus 4,000 at DraftKings, so you're getting a really nice edge here. He would be, 5.5% under plus 2,000 for fair odds, probably about plus 1,800, I believe. Made a run last week at a familiar course. Now he's got a chance to do so again, stringing together a really good fall. T13, T18, and T11 in his past 3 fall events after doing a very lackluster regular season. 15th ranked putter, 36th in driving accuracy. So he's got pretty much the tools you need here. If he can just cut through some of that wind, it shouldn't be too hard for him to be in contention. Notably, he's 110th in the FedEx Cup rankings. Top 100 automatically get a bid next season. He can use a career exemption if he's outside that, but he probably doesn't want to, given that he's this close. I would expect him to make a pretty tough push, strong push this week. Our second most likely winner, Nico Echeverria, 4.8%. You can get him plus 2,800 on DraftKings. Really good form to close the year. He missed the cut to open fall, but he finished T38 in the FedEx St. Jude Championship, just missing out on the next event there. And then 9th and T14 in his past 2 fall events. Another really excellent putter at 8th, 48th in driving accuracy. So pretty similar profile to Kuchar here. And our second most likely winner of the tournament. Both those guys are absolutely on my card. Matty Schmidt, plus 3,000 on DraftKings. He made a run last week, was in the lead after I think it was round 2. Finished T8 on the weekend. Very good result. 5 top 10s this year. Peaked with a solo second back at the Charles Schwab. Another really good putter. Ranks 31st. Not accurate at all off the tee. Well below average. But he's 25th on distance. And very, very good on approach from 200 yards or more. 3rd best. So if he can at least keep the ball in the fairway, avoid the wind, he should be able to shorten up these holes with his irons. Just about fair odds at 3%. Pulled a solo 3rd here, I think in 2023. So familiarity with the course. And one more here, Matt Wallace, plus 3,500 on DraftKings. He was a guy we looked at last week as well. Couple of cuts in the fall events, but also a T3, T27 to finish the regular season. T10, T31 in 2 fall events. So pretty solid form for a guy outside the top ranks. Not a lot of metrics to blow you away. Very middle of the pack in putting and driving, but he does rank 16th in scrambling around the green. So, a couple wayward shots and he might be able to take advantage and steal a few birdies. He'd be fair at plus 2,800 with our 3.4% probability. So just a little bit of an edge there at plus 3,500 odds. I'll play all 4 of these guys. I usually do with the model. I play every edge, and then I look at 2, 3, or 4 guys that I like based on course fit. usually regardless of the model's odds, because realistically, it's anyone's tournament with these. It's a really weak field. I think I don't even think it's a full field. I think it's a 78-man field, but it's really weak. There are like no top ranked golfers in this. So really anybody's to steal. And we're on a pretty good run with the model. So no reason to really fade it right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's I like these golf tournaments where the stars aren't there. Don't get me wrong. I love watching Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy as a golf fan. You don't want to miss them, but it's chaos when they're not there. It's just anybody's tournament when the best in the world are not in action.
Mm-hmm.
Count me in on Matty Schmidt. I think that's my play this week. 30-1. Love those odds. Yeah, he was unreal at points last week, and to have a good history third in this tournament, I think his eyes are going to be lit up. So Schmidt is the one I'll tack my name onto here. Thank you, Dave, very much. Before we close the show, we've got some winners last week to give some flowers to. Let's talk about our champs of the week.
The Pro Champ of the Week.
2 champs of the week. A beautiful run for these two guys in the Discord. JB turns $10 into $5.15 using college basketball model bets on Saturday. Got some Brown covering in there, Marist, North Texas, and a couple of unders. Beautiful work. And then Jay Solstice with an absolutely incredible Dimers props touchdown parlay. Tyler Algier, Woody Marks, Jameson Williams, Zach Charbonnet, and Mark Andrews, all with an edge in the Dimers model. He played them together, $10 into $2,600. Absolute sweep by the TD props on there. We talked about Algier. I've given Woody Marks his flowers on here, and nice to see somebody put it all to work and come out on top. Jay Solstice has only been in the Discord a couple of weeks, but he's been really active, and now a Hall of Fame win to show for it. So well done to both of you. Love to shout you guys out in the Discord and on the podcast every time we get a chance.
That touchdown parlay is just like print it out, frame it, autograph it, tell your grandkids about it, ticket. That's just special. It warms the heartstrings. And JB, my guy, I know he was sweating because North Texas needed a buzzer beater to close out their game. I bet that was probably the last leg of that parlay. And I bet he went nuts. I was watching that game like, this is crazy, let alone having a $515 winner on the line for us. So congratulations, JB. Congratulations, Jay Solstice. Great indications of how you can use our models data to go make yourself some money. What else do we have on Dimers this week, Dave?
What's on Dimers this week?
Well, as mentioned, golf is rolling, and our probabilities update all week long. This is kind of important because if you had missed Ben Griffin early last week, he started out in the top 20s, but the model continued to show value on him in rounds 2, 3, and at the start of round 4. So while you wouldn't have gotten the plus 1,200 pre-tournament, it still shows that there's opportunities to jump on guys mid-tournament. We also had some value on Matty Schmidt as he was making a run. Didn't close it out, but, you see a guy projected to win. Maybe you look at him for top 5, top 10. He would have cashed the top 10 in that. So always value in the model, in the golf predictions, even once the tournaments get going. So we won't be posting it. We don't really post any articles or anything, but for you, the tools are constantly updating and have plenty of value to keep going in there. As usual, NHL, NBA, college hoops every single day. Still some college football going on during the week. We got Maction Tuesdays and Wednesday nights. What a time to be alive. Keep an eye out for the model reports for all of these sports. Seeing great success since they rolled out. Talked about that earlier in the show during Should Have Bet That. NHL one just dropped today. There is a puck line play in there in Sharks Wild. So go check that out. That's on the homepage. And pretty much everything you need, we will have for you on dimers.com.
Maction is the gift that keeps on giving. Just soak these moments in, folks. There's only so many left, and we must appreciate them all. Dave, another great episode under our belts, our 20th of hopefully very many more. Thank you to everybody who listens and supports this show. Subscribe so you can get alerts every time we drop a new episode of the Dimers Sports Betting Podcast. We will be back on Thursday for our deep dive into Week 11, our Thursday night football lotto and more. Gamble responsibly. In the meantime, everybody, we'll see you Thursday.